What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of First Blood. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. It is a great Saturday, and I know a lot of you may be out of school now. And I heard, at least in my area, I don't know about around you, Alan, but I heard school was out kind of for summer for Friday. So I just,
Oh, snap.
as I get up and older now, I don't even realize that or think about it. But we had a
Me
crazy
neither.
day of Call of Duty yesterday. There's some freaking nuts matches, and I know I got to catch majority of it, but I know you had quite a busy day yesterday. You said you were feeling sick, but I think a lot of the games did not go, I guess, the way that we thought they would.
What are we talking about? My predictions were almost on par, except for one. I had map count down to a T.
Well, yeah, okay, okay, fair. I say that just because I'm so shocked by the Minnesota Rocker. Like, I just can't believe that
Yeah.
that went the way it did. So, like, my other two predictions, I feel like, yeah, you had it down to a map count on point, but overall, I can't believe that they ended up getting that win. But we can talk about it here in a little bit. I'm just still so mind blown. I kept calling them the
Yeah,
Minnesota Shocker.
Dude, wait, the easy rebrand. Like, come on, let's get on that real quick. That's actually so factual.
I can't. I saw Brian Saint do there was like a pregame interview or something, like, I guess you would call it a pregame interview before their match, and he was
Sure.
just like, yeah, we're 4-0, whatever, like no pressure on the guys at all, but we're just gonna go out and shock everyone again for the 5th time in a row, and then they just go out and win like that, and I'm like, okay, these guys are the real
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of reactions to that series. We'll get to it, but I've got a ton of reactions to that series.
Oh, definitely. I'm gonna throw it to the B-roll chat. We're gonna kind of basically, I guess, this episode just kind of have the gameplay going. We're not gonna really super dissect anything, but we'll just have the gameplay kind of rolling in the background. That way, you guys can see what we're kind of talking about in some of these games. But yesterday, let's kind of get right into it. The first match of the day was the Paris Legion versus Toronto Ultra, and I don't think this one really was too competitive, to say the least. Overall, like, watching the whole series, I didn't catch like anything crazy. I just feel like it's still the same problem that we spoke about with Paris. You kind of have good performances out of temp and sometimes Tom Gravity, but on the submachine gun side of things, it just seems like super inconsistent gameplay from these guys, and it sucks to see because they really have had some series where they're close to putting it together, but we've talked about it a ton. Like, it just feels like they really aren't set up for success with playing kind of online.
No, not at all. And you kind of feel bad, I think, in an instance because this is the easy team to just take a poop on right now for everybody. And it's easy, I think, outside of temp to just point at individuals and say, like, what the hell is this guy still doing in the league? I know John's been getting like the brute force of it for the last couple of weeks now. It's just they're not set up into a position to be competitive, man. They're just not. One series win online versus Toronto is just not good enough. Like 3 out of their 4 wins have come on land. It is just, it's so frustrating to watch them just continue to like bullheadedly rush in. Like the last moments of this Bacage when they're just like running right into like all the ARs, like one by one. Insight picked up like 4 kills in a row, like no problem. No one even shot back against them. It's just like, what are we doing? Like it just sucks, man. It's just the whole league is so competitive except for this team. And it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Just, I don't know. It's hard to, like, we've spoke about it a lot, but it's hard to, like, I guess, be hard on them because again, it seems like they're just set up terribly. Like, who knows what this team could have. I would have just loved to see if we could start fresh from the league and be like, oh, okay, these guys are going to start in a facility, start with this 4, people or lineup or whatever, because they've obviously made multiple different roster changes now, and it's just like, I don't know, you're at the point of the year where hopefully they can kind of turn it around or try and make something happen. But if they're not going to be able to win these online league matches, which they've won, you said won the entirety of the year, they're not really set up to be in a winner's bracket starting spot for one of these majors. And it's hard to make a loser's run every single tournament. As someone who's competed, it's like you're put in a position where you're playing one and dones theoretically, and you're going to the event hoping that you can kind of perform. And so, I don't know. I feel for these guys. I feel for all of them. I feel like John has been getting a lot of slack, and he has not been playing well by any means. But I can only imagine how hard it is on them mentally, losing all the time on top of the kind of fan base being on them. So hopefully they can get some going. But I guess on the side
I
of
will say,
yeah, go ahead.
just for what it's worth, at this moment, at least as I'm looking on your stream, like it was 180 to 90,
Uh-huh.
and Paris brought it back pretty damn nicely. And a lot of it was because John started to step it up. Like he was like nearly quad neg at one point in time in this series, and he started to really bring it back to life. Like this game was much closer than I thought it was going to be, just simply due to the fact that it was almost 200 to 80 at one point in time in favor of Toronto, and it still ended in a 50-point game. So, I mean, Paris brought it back a little bit. It's just, I don't know. It just kind of feels like it always takes them too long to get into a series. And then the Search and Destroy, they started up 2-0 and then lost 6 out of the next 7 or something like that. So it's just, there are some team things outside of the fact that the facilities aren't there, that the team itself, the organization aren't giving them the tools to win. There are team things going on here where it's just like, okay, well, Paris is also just making mistakes. Like it's not only the organization treating them poorly, they also are just making bad plays.
Oh yeah, they're definitely. I think you get to that point as a team where you're kind of like, I don't know, you can tell by their tweets and everything, like after games and whatnot, that they've kind of just honestly lost full is the word I would use. It's just like
Yeah.
I don't know, you kind of run around, you lose hope in your team, you lose hope in your teammates, and it's just like gets in a frustrating cycle is what I'd like to call it. But yeah, like you said, they started to kind of come back in this game one, but it was just a little too late. They really couldn't gather that string. I think they were, like you said, ended up being down like over 100 points. I think they ended up bringing it back and barely losing by, I wanted to say 50. But on the side of
50,
Toronto, I want to talk about too, just like this whole entire series. I tweeted it. I think Cammy is literally back. Like he ended this map one, I think like with 41 something kills like that. He was absolutely fine and just making plays, and even in the search and destroy after they go down
He was great in the search.
0 to 2. He had many clutch plays, just many clutch moments where he's just making those insane plays. And I think if you're a Toronto Ultra fan, that's something you're really happy to see, just because these guys literally have been kind of looking for that, I feel like, all year. And you look back in Cold War and you're like, dude, this guy was nuts. Like he was MVP, best player on Toronto, wasn't even close. And then kind of through this year, he's kind of been quiet. But I had to tell you what, if there's one time to kick up, it's right now. You're on the backside of the end of the year where you're playing for major 3 and 4 and COD champs. And realistically, over the last several years, all you want to do is perform at COD champs because it's where all the money is. So he's been playing lights out.
It wasn't even just Cold War either. He was great in Modern Warfare. I remember sitting there and saying that Cammy could be absolutely an MVP in Modern Warfare if he just had some help around him. And then he eventually started getting some help around him by the end of the year, and that's when Toronto really popped off at their own major and then going into that playoff run that they put together. So yeah, I love to see it. And this is, I think, everyone, I still feel, generally speaking, like the avid followers of the CDL, I think everyone is still looking at this Toronto team in the same light as the team that was Toronto Ultra in Cold War and the end of Modern Warfare. Like, this team is incredible. They should be incredible. It's just kind of like this thorn in your side of like, what is it going to take for them to get to that again? And we've said that all year long. We don't think anyone's ever questioned the potential. Yeah, there have been some moments where we sat there and said, ooh, maybe we need to consider a change if this really is not working. But when you see performances like that out of Cammy, Insight was doing his thing, and like the ARs were just dominating this entire matchup, that's when you start to feel like this team can still be a top 2 squad maybe by the end of the year, especially with Atlanta looking very vulnerable at the moment. So I don't know. It just, you have to see something, I think, throughout the rest of this stage. Like, it has to be done now, like you mentioned. You don't want to wait until stage 4 quals, stage 4 major before you get to playoffs. You want to start believing in this Toronto team now. Yeah, because they're still kind of on the fringe when it comes to what happens with playoffs in the first place. So,
yeah, no, definitely. I think overall, they've had a nail biter win versus New York, and then they handled business versus Paris. And I feel like that's just like always something that is like a plus. Like whenever you're kind of in that team in the middle of the pack, like you said, and they're on that playoff verge, it's like the teams that you need to beat, you should handle business versus. And sometimes it's good to come out, get a beating, get like the whole confidence and the morale. Like we talked about it yesterday. We were saying how hopefully them bringing in Scrappy maybe brought back some confidence or some swagger or whatever to the team and allowed them to kind of get it all back. So overall, I think there's not really too much to talk about. They literally handled business and absolutely dominated Paris Legion as we kind of thought they would. But I don't know if you really got anything specific else on these guys. I feel like they just did what they should have done, in my opinion.
I agree. Absolutely.
So we can transfer things over and chat again. This is just we're just gonna kind of roll with it. Just have some VOD in the background. That way, when we're talking, it's not just our faces the whole entire time, because I saw some comments about it. So bear with us. But let's transfer things over to the second match of the day. We had Seattle Surge going up against Florida Mutineers, and this one was pretty good matchup. We kind of hit it spot on with the vetoes. We talked about it. We said that we thought they'd kind of see him square up on a Bocage. And then the more I talked about the matchup yesterday, I was just very confident in Seattle. I know, like, I don't know. I've seen some stuff from Mutineers and from some of the guys on the team. Like, these guys apparently they've been testing positive for COVID, so you guys haven't been playing in the same room. Do you think that it's something that is hindering their performance from sickness and not being able to like play together, or do you think that it's just this team's kind of in a rough patch right now? Because I'll be honest, like, I feel like it is hard to get into it. If like Toronto went through that. Remember, they had Vance who had COVID. They had I think it was Kleenex who had COVID. They had like multiple guys testing positive. They were shaky online. It wasn't really looking good. Or are you worried about this Florida team? I know you've kind of been on them, but or do you think it's just something like that it'll go by with when the major comes around?
I think a lot of it is just this team is going to be kind of in that same realm of unpredictability that they've always been in, where sometimes they're going to come out and look lights out and look like one of the best teams in the game. Other times they're going to come out and not look like that and look like possibly one of the worst teams in the game. It's hard to put a finger on this squad. I think largely because the consistencies that we see aren't from the same places that the best teams in the games are finding consistencies. You know what I mean? Like, when we look at teams like Optic, we look at teams like, we'll say like New York and Minnesota right now, like the flex role has really been the key indicator of how good a team is going to be. And I guess you could say the same thing for Atlanta, because Cell didn't really play necessarily super well yesterday. And you don't have that in Florida. When Florida wins, it's because Vivid is dominating or no one's touching Dave. Like, it feels like it's either somebody up front in the SMG line or somebody in the very back of the AR line. It doesn't feel like you're getting massive, monumental, consistent performances from players like Skies or Awakening. I feel like we haven't even said those two players' names even a quarter as much as we had throughout Modern Warfare and Cold War. Like, I feel like they're just not a story comparatively to the previous couple of years. And that automatically makes the identity of this team different in my mind when it comes to evaluating that. So I think it's just a makeup thing. I think this game is just not one that necessarily builds towards the strengths of this roster. And there's going to be days where they play well and they're going to surprise people. And there are going to be days where they just can't really figure it out. And I feel like yesterday, it wasn't necessarily they couldn't figure it out. I still praise Seattle more than I take away from Florida, but I still think that the weaknesses in this roster were showing itself, especially considering the fact that on the opposite side for Seattle, you had Pred just absolutely just shit on everybody. I mean, it was his series from start to finish.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I feel like, too, it's funny you point that out. Like, we haven't talked about Skies and Awaken. Like, we've had our moments where we've talked about Awaken, but Skies has kind of had a quiet year. I feel like just realistically, like, I don't think he's a bad like flex or bad sub player by any means, but I just feel like he's so good in that like main AR role, and he's just so comfortable. And I feel like the more I sit here and think about it, if they were to go back and kind of like try getting another sub, and like you spoke about, maybe it's Yeez, maybe it's not Yeez, maybe whatever they think it is, but like I do think it would make a lot of sense. I don't think Dave has been playing bad by any means, but I feel like if they were to have Caesar on the main, let Awakening be that true flex, have Vivid as a sub, and try another sub, I really think this team could be dangerous in this game. Because, I mean,
I agree.
In MW, they were disgusting, and that was their roles. And I don't know. I've seen Caesar as a main. Again, I've teamed with him when he ran the main. I feel like he's really good at kind of what Dave does. He's just like I call it a creddy play style. He plays like very just structured and annoying, kind of plays those off angles and just super ready gunfights. So I don't know. I would love to see them kind of experiment it if they couldn't turn it around, you know, come Major 3 if they were to bomb out or something like that. But I know that they're probably still hot on the squad, which they have the right to be after their kind of performance at Major 2. They got a top 4 finish, and then they did solid at the Pro-Am. So I'm sure that that's kind of lingering in the back of their heads. And then obviously, like I said, that I know that some of their players are dealing with COVID right now. So I can't imagine that is fun playing Call of Duty. We just spoke about it. You're not feeling well. It's not fun to sit there and be playing.
I couldn't be trying to get my thumbs going. There's no way.
Exactly. So it's not a fun time to kind of be screaming call outs and whatnot. So I don't know. Only time will tell, I guess, when these guys start feeling better and seeing if they can kind of put it together for the major. But on the bright side, Seattle has looked a lot better. Like you said, Pred had a
Much better.
day yesterday. He was absolutely frying. I want to pull it up. I'm going to pull up this map for Hardpoint because, dude, he was literally world star. I heard him screaming at the top of his lungs. They went over to his player cam and he looked like he said, like, get out of my lobby or get the fuck out of my lobby, something like that. And I was just like, oh, he is feeling it. But I don't know. The Seattle team is weird, man. Like they have like these strings of greatness where they look so good for a few weeks. Then they have stuff like the Pro-Am where they go there and they just bomb out, can't win a series. I can't put my finger on what it is really.
I will say this qualifying stage has been the most confident I felt in this Seattle team since the beginning of the year. Even at the beginning of the year, I was never fully on board, but you lose a tough map 5 to Toronto to start off the quals. And I think that series was more indicative of the first 4 maps than the 06 stomp that they got put on and the Tuscan Surge. But this rest of this qualifying stage has been comfortable for Seattle, largely speaking. I think that's good news, especially with one more match to play against London coming up. I like the way that they match up versus that London squad. So, I mean, Seattle, they're already qualified for upper bracket. They're now in a position to fight for a top seed, which would be great news because the teams that are currently looking at, 7th and 8th and stuff like that are all teams that I think are beatable for them. So I think that this is the best we've seen Seattle, and it comes at, like we were talking about with Toronto, it comes at the exact right time. And I think it's not just one of those things that in this series did Seattle prove it to me. Yeah, a little bit, but I would say just over the course of the whole qualifying stage this time around, the 3-0 versus LA Thieves was a very convincing moment, I think, for a lot of people. And then also to be able to get a convincing win versus Paris and then still fight with Toronto in the first opening match. I think this team is ready to go for the major. I think this is the best opportunity they have to get a top 4 finish. And if they keep playing like they're playing, I think that's definitely doable, especially considering that they are going to start in the upper bracket.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with Sam. We've had him on the show. I talked to him a lot at the Pro-Am, and I feel like he always spoke about it, and it's something I've experienced while playing too. It's just like you do face adversity as teams, and I feel like they've done a good job of always bouncing back from that. They've had some really low lows as a team, but they've always kind of brought it back to those high moments. And I think that's a huge plus on their side of things, just because I don't know. It sometimes is hard to kind of bounce out of that as a team whenever you're struggling really bad. Like that Pro-Am was not like, yeah, it didn't do anything CDL point wise, but like that has to be demoralizing. It's like, okay, wow, we just lost to the AM team, literally lost to everyone. So for them to kind of be able to bounce back and be performing right now, after all those circumstances, I think it's very good positive if you're a Seattle Surge fan. And like you said, I think they have a good chance of being able to start high in the upper bracket here at the major and maybe be able to make another run like they were. And hopefully Mac or none of their players are sick, because who knows what would have happened at major 2 if he was playing. So
that's true. I didn't think about that.
It'll only time will tell. But I think, like you said, it's more of a Seattle confidence thing and them playing well than I think it was like a super worry about Florida right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, 100% agree.
So that is that. That was the end of that match. And then yesterday, I think this is the series again we really want to talk about, and I think this is kind of the most eye-opening one of the entire day. But we saw Minnesota Rocker, aka Minnesota Shocker, play Faze yesterday. I know you're mind blown. I think everyone was mind blown. It was one of the best performances. I told you that like Dylan Price, for some reason, this kid like just decides to not die versus good teams or in like big matchups, and like I think that just proves it right here. I don't know what it is, why. Like, did you see the clip of him that he tweeted it out at the player camps?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh my God. I'm pulling this up real quick, chat. Bear with me. I'm pulling this up on stream. Hopefully I don't leak anything or show anything. But this kid, the drooling thing, did you see that? So he said, no way I was drooling during the match. I was turned. And this guy literally has drool come out of his mouth while he's playing. This guy is hilarious. But I don't know. I think, like I said, I think everyone is just like shocked. I don't think we expected, online or not, whatever you want to call it, them to go from what they did at the Pro-Am. I know they were like under practice there. But to go 5-0 in their stage, they're done. They're going to be a first seed going into the event, and 3-0 Faze. That is nuts.
It's not just the fact that they 3-0 Faze, brother. It's the fact that they played Bakaj hardpoint
Yep.
and 3-0'd Faze, and Bakaj search and destroy and 3-0'd Faze. Like that, I think the desk was talking about it. I had a chance to go back and kind of rewatch part of the opening desk, and I want to say that it was either Nameless or Ali that were talking about. It's just like, dude, not only are you crazy to see Bakaj start, but I think Tuscan was map 4. It's just like, you're gonna sit there and tell me you're gonna play Atlanta Faze on their best 2 hardpoint maps in this series?
Well, I kind of liked,
need to.
real quick, I watched that. So I watched a pregame interview with the Brian Saint, and I was listening to him, and what he said is basically, it made so much sense, and I like the way they took it. He said, when you play Faze, it was kind of what we spoke about yesterday, how you have to pick your poison with like hardpoint maps, what you want to play on. And he literally said, well, on Gavutu, you square up on them. They're 9-0 on Gavutu, other than outside of the Optic loss. They're 9-0 on the hardpoint map. And then Bocage, every team has vetoed it a ton versus them, so they never get to play it. So they haven't played, like, got a good Bocage rep, at least in a match in a long time. So they're like, you kind of have to pick your poison. You don't square up on Bocage, you're going to square up on Gavutu. And they're like, we're just comfortable playing it. And I mean, I respect that. So it's like, I don't know. It's super cool to see these guys kind of come out and absolutely fry. And I see Looney saying, "Oh, we aren't guaranteed first seed." Okay, I did not know that.
Even with the 15-3 map count, I guess Optic, if they 3-0 twice, okay, I guess that's true.
Yeah, but so what would that come down to? Certain maps, right? If they're Optic need to lose 2 maps. Okay,
I think it's just map count. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, Optic needs to lose at least 2 maps. Yeah, that actually is crazy to be 15-3 and 5-0, 15-3, not be guaranteed first seed.
That is crazy.
That's mental.
It is nuts. But I don't know. Anything I guess you saw specifically from this game? I think it's, like I said, it's just crazy to see, I guess, the teamwork and from these guys. And overall, again, I think it was a huge shout out to Dylan and Price. I think he was absolutely frying, like I said, the whole series. But specifically, we talked about it, like for these guys to come out map 1 and take the hard point, it sets them up in such a good situation because we've talked about their search and destroy, how strong it was.
Sure, absolutely.
And it's just a huge momentum thing.
And Study said this in the middle of the first map, where it was actually kind of near the end of the first map, where this isn't just the fact that Minnesota's playing Atlanta well. They're playing the map against Atlanta very, very well. It never really felt like Atlanta could get set up because you always had somebody hitting a route if you were Minnesota, which is what you want. If you have an advantage anywhere on the map, you want to be trying to make the next play. And Atlanta was never able to get their feet underneath them in the first couple of rotations, just largely because we always saw somebody from Minnesota hitting an early route. So Atlanta kind of had to continually make decisions of, do we try to play for the time? Do we try to play for next? And they were caught in like right here. This is a prime example where you kind of see Atlanta split on 2 different sides of the map. Like they're never able to get together. And that's just really good awareness from Minnesota. So I thought the way that they played this Bocage hardpoint was phenomenal. Not only the fact that they have beaten Atlanta 1 out of 2 times now on this map, but it was the fact that they also gave them one of their worst hardpoint losses this year on a map that has been categorically their best overall hardpoint map. So that stuff is very inspiring. It's not just the individual performances. Yeah, Attach was like 21-8 at one point in time, which is ridiculous. But it was the fact that as a squad, like the tempo and the flow of this team just looks like it almost looks like the first half of the season didn't even matter. Like, it's so different from what we had seen out of the first 2 stages from this Minnesota team, and that's just really inspiring stuff. And I think the most impressive part was also to see what they did on Bocage Search and Destroy. Like, even against Atlanta looking for those quick A plants, the responses that Minnesota had put together defensively for retakes was so good. Like, the split second decision making was so clean, and it gave them an opportunity to hit defensive retakes in situations that you wouldn't have normally thought they would get clean looks on. It's really good stuff from them in those first 2 maps.
Yeah, no, completely. I 100% agree. And I think that's something we spoke a little bit about this, or at least I did, after New York kind of won the Pro when they swapped their just one player out. And we spoke about how kind of fundamentally they just looked so much better. I feel like that's a kind of true testament to this Minnesota Rocket team. It just seems like everyone's more comfortable. It seems like the way they're moving around kind of as a squad. They just have a game plan, like you were saying. It doesn't matter, you know, they get 4 dead. They know what they want to do, how they want to retake these hard points. They clearly have a system in place, and I think that's kind of why you're seeing them find so much success and why kind of the consistent results are starting to come in now across these respawns and really all the modes.
Yeah. And the thing too is, in this search and destroy, it's the measured aggression that we're seeing out of Standy and Havoc that I think really caused Atlanta problems. And that's something that I think we would normally assume would be the other way around, where Simp and Abizi are the ones that are slipping through, causing problems. That just wasn't the case. It just felt like the entirety of the series, Atlanta was kind of playing responsive Call of Duty. They really weren't being proactive in too many ways. Like outside of like the quick A rushes, get the bomb planted in the first 30 seconds, it felt like the entirety of these rounds were reactionary. And that's just, I think, again, goes to the moniker of Minnesota's playing a fluid game as a group of four. And it never really feels like there's a comfortable moment for Atlanta to set up with. And that's, if they could keep that up throughout the rest of the offline portion of this major, I mean, Minnesota's going to be in a really good spot to make moves up the standings completely here. Not only just because they went 5-0, but they've got the opportunity to finish top 3 at least with this upcoming tournament.
Yeah, no, definitely. I completely agree with you. I just wonder too, like, I don't know, we've talked a lot about Minnesota, but I guess on the flip side, I want to know your opinion on this, because I think this was, again, the first time that this Atlanta Faze roster has ever been 3-0'd in a series. I want to say in the CDL, because I saw a tweet or a stat or something about them that they've basically never been 3-0'd before. So I guess, I don't know, they've now had back-to-back losses. I've kind of spoke about them a lot over the last several months, but how they always seem to literally handle business versus basically everyone other than Optic. I think I said that exact line yesterday.
Yeah, you did.
But they just, I don't know. This is like the first time I guess they've had back-to-back games where they've lost now. They've been in a weird spot. They've kind of yet to win an event. Everyone's kind of been talking about, I guess, them not really being the Atlanta Faze of last year. I don't know. I guess.
Sure.
Is it just more of teams are getting better, you think? Do you think Faze is getting worse? Is it like anything to be concerned about? I'm just curious to get your kind of take on everything as a whole with them.
My reaction after these 4 qualifier matches has been kind of very similar to, you remember back during the kind of 2/3 of the way through the Modern Warfare season where there was so much criticism that Atlanta Faze could not hold a hard point. Like, do you remember like watching them over like Gunrunners? Like, they can't hold a hard point on Gunrunner. And I remember like very vividly being stressed for them. And we were like, oh, they'll figure it out. They'll take the last part of the online season. They'll figure it out. They'll be ready to go by playoffs. And even though that was remotely kind of true, it wasn't fully the Atlanta Faze that we saw at the beginning of the year. And I feel very similar about this Faze team now. Just the fact that not only have they lost back-to-back games, but the problems that are irking them are kind of the same things that were bothering them before they got to playoffs in Modern Warfare, where it's just like, they're not getting their feet underneath them. They're struggling to put together looks. They're struggling to get an execution put together. Like, the setups just aren't there. Like, it's not something that like tangibly it's very easy to see where it's just like, oh, they're doing A, B, or C wrong. But it's a feeling that you get like watch them try to break a hard point, or in this control in particular, watch them trying to break into this B zone. It just felt super one-dimensional, felt a little bit off. It just, those things I think are starting to creep back into the works. So it's interesting because this major, I think Atlanta should be fine today. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But as you look at the tournament and their ability to win, there are new teams now all of a sudden that are back into the mix, and Atlanta continues to fall below them in certain regards. So I think that there is some concern. To get back to your initial question, I feel great about the teams that are getting better. Yeah, sure. But I do think there is something about Atlanta just not quite keeping pace. And that would make them look like they're, obviously struggling in a way.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, even to read off of my point and your point, but Alec literally tweeted yesterday. He said, GG's Minnesota got rolled getting effort gapped. And then he tweeted after that, following up, saying, not comfortable at all on the map. Got to fix this issue. Need to find my role again. Find us again. Sorry, Easy AF fans. So, like, I don't know. They definitely, like, there's definitely something going on kind of behind the scenes. And when he says effort gapped, I wonder, like, if this sometimes can be a thing in COD as a competitive player who has played. Like, if you are at a point like Faze, right, where they're scrimming every single day, let's just say they get on, and I would assume that these guys probably dominate majority. I would say 70+% of their scrims, maybe 80%. You kind of get on every day and like steamroll teams, but you don't like, that's not always a good thing. And we've seen it in COD time and time again, where you kind of get on, you're never put in some of these situations where like you said, you got to retake a hard point, you got to retake a control point. And like when you're always, sometimes like that's why they say losing is learning. So like you can go through and kind of experience when you're on the back pedal of some of these games, and you got to figure it out. And I don't know, that may just be something on the backside of thing. I don't know. This is not 100% a fact or anything like that, but I just know that if you are always winning and always in the kind of driver's seat, you never have to learn some of these things. And that could be something where sometimes in these matches, they're getting put in situations that maybe they're not super comfortable with, and they're not doing a set complete system. And that's why these guys feel super uncomfortable during the game, and they kind of can't find their footing as a team. So just something to always kind of take note.
Yep. No, it's there's look, we're not going to learn anything today, I don't think. Talking about this upcoming match that they have versus LAG, but this tournament I think is going to be a very big identity building moment for this Atlanta Faze team, because going into this qualifying stage, I think everyone in the community had a set top 2 teams in the game, and then it was kind of a hodgepodge between 3rd and 11th. Now it's just like we've got one good top team in the game, and then who knows between 12th and 11th, or 2nd and 11th rather. It's just, I feel like Atlanta has now been put into this position where they are quite literally in the mix with 6 to 7 other teams. That who knows? It just kind of comes down to maybe the day or what the map set looks like, whatever it happens to be. So this is going to be an identity building tournament, I think, for this Atlanta team. Obviously, they don't have to worry about playoffs; they're fine, but I think when it comes to trying to get the wheels back on the car, this tournament is going to be a very important one for the Faze camp.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, this can be, it's not, I don't even think it's a super big deal overall for them. I just think that they've kind of, I don't know, need to get their head on straight and kind of figure it out before it gets a little too late. I feel like these guys have the talent. They have the amazing roster. They're just in a rough patch right now. And we spoke about Seattle. It's kind of like you hit a point where you are trying to find, I don't know, you hit that adversity, you got to just find your footing again and kind of make it work. But I wanted to say real fast, this round, the last round of the control where Minnesota clutched up in a 4v13, that was absolutely disgusting. So great plays out of them. You see them all get super hype and really get into the game. So it was cool to see from them. Again, a shout out to the Minnesota Rocket guys, online or not, whatever it is. Huge last 3 weeks from them, and I'm sure they are feeling unbelievably confident going into the major, sitting hopefully, I would assume, probably in the first seed. But nuts out of those guys. But let's transfer things over to the games today. Those games yesterday were absolutely crazy, and we got another good day of Call of Duty in store for us. But let's talk about it. Like you said, we kind of roll things right into it. We saw Faze play last yesterday. We get to see him play first today. They go up against the LAG, Atlanta Faze versus LAG to start the day. And this is kind of an interesting match, I would say, because this reminds me of like the Toronto Paris match in a way, where like Toronto should just handle business versus Paris, and they do that. This is a series where, based on the way LAG has been performing over the last month or month and a half, ever since the Major 2, we've only talked kind of bad about LAG. They go on to make the roster change. They put Gunless back in. This is a series where Faze should just come in and dominate.
Have to. I mean, LAG nearly lost to Paris last week. And I just don't think that, I mean, this, we kind of asked the question, this has to be the biggest fall off of a team to win an event, to then only win one series since then over the course of a month and a half. That has to be the biggest fall off in CDL or CWL history, right? I mean, it's baffling. And I don't think it was just a Volk thing. I just think that it's one of those things that kind of we talked about with Florida, like, and we even heard about it. I think it was Bance that came on and was talking about this team, or maybe it was Zero, one of the two, that was like, this team is going to be really good if they can get in your face all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, they haven't been able to get into anyone's face lately because the SMG line is just turning up flat. And I don't know, man. It's tough to put a finger on what LAG needs to do at this point in time, because if you're having core problems in that front SMG line where there's not participating at the same levels that they were throughout Major 2, then I don't know. It's just kind of hard to pick your poison here, because Gunless for Spart, I don't think that is really more than just a 1-for-1, honestly. And I think the bigger problem lies within what is Hook and Asim going to do. And I think that with that problem, Atlanta has such an upper hand in this series because of it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I feel like too, we've seen kind of the middle, like that's what separates the really good teams from like the mediocre teams. The really good teams, their sub players are so consistent always across the board. Like it doesn't matter what map and mode combo they put on. These guys don't really, I call it prone to the stinker game. Like they're not prone to going
True.
10 and
Yeah.
30 or having a really bad series where you just see them dropping a 0.5. You don't see Shotsy or Scump just really dropping a 0.5 ever in a series. And it's like some of these middle of the pack teams, their submachine gun players have just kind of been super inconsistent. I don't know if that's a playstyle thing. I don't know if it's a Vanguard thing. But sometimes I feel like these guys just need to slow down, take a deep breath, sit in a corner, get a kill, get that momentum going. Because like you said, you see these super inconsistent performances from some of these guys. Asim's been lights out, but then he's had a kind of a rough patch for over the last few weeks. And the same thing with Yuke. It's kind of just been up and down. So I think if they can put it together, it can start looking a little bit better. But I don't know. I don't know if Spart out was for sure the problem. But like you said, I think the problem was lying in the submachine gun. So it's kind of a weird situation where they got to kind of put Gunless back in and see what they can do. But it will get weird for them for sure. They don't have an easy matchup going up against FaZe. And even just to talk vetoes, we talked about it yesterday with Atlanta. Like this is a very hard team from LAG to veto against. What are these guys have to pick their poison? Like Brian Saint said yesterday, you square up on Bocage or you square up on Gavutu. You pick your poison. That's you get rid of one of the two versus this team. They're 9-1 on Gavutu, and then they obviously just had their most recent loss versus them on Bocage. So it's like I don't even know honestly. LAG, I don't know what strength they would go to here. I don't know what route they would try and work on or try and play. Just sitting here looking at their maps. And the hard point, they're 9-5 on Berlin hardpoint, 2-7 on Bocage, 2-7 on Gavutu, and 7-5 on Tuscan. So you're gonna see a Tuscan or Berlin, but then you got to pick your poison on one of the other two. So it's just like,
Berlin.
yeah. So I mean, you're probably gonna get a Tuscan and either a Bocage or Gavutu, but I don't know which one they're gonna choose to kind of square up versus FaZe on.
I would imagine LAG's probably going to want to put Bocage in over Gavutu, just simply due to the fact that you do have the maybe ability for a Seamer who to do something crazy. I feel like you put him on Gavutu, they just don't have a chance. Like the losses that LAG have had on Gavutu have been largely huge blowouts.
Fair.
At least you've been competitive on Bocage. So I think we get Tuscan Bocage here for the hard points. The search and destroy, the news doesn't get much better. I mean, it's just as much as Atlanta has been kind of poor in the search and destroy, it's still overall, I would say, a little bit better than LAG's has been, especially lately on the losing streak that they've been on. And then control, the news is just bad there too. I mean, it's just no way you slice this series looking good for LAG. I don't know. It's tough scenes here, bud. It's just tough scenes here.
I'm right there with you. I think I kind of know where I'm going with this series as well. I think you do. I'm ready to kind of get right into predictions if you are, because I don't think there's too much to talk about. Unfortunately, I feel like you said the LEG is kind of put in a rough spot as far as vetoes go, and kind of their team spot right now. So they would have to have a crazy day performance. But I like the Bocage take. I think that's a smart choice. I think you kind of let Huke and Asim go rogue. And maybe Gunless pulls out that third sub and you try to just square up and battle it out on Bocage and hope for the best, because that map can get mixy. But I'll kick us off with predictions. We can get right underway. I think I got Atlanta FaZe taking this one 3-1. I'll give LAG a map. It could easily be a 3-0, though. I think they'll kind of bounce back today and perform like they should. I'm not super worried about them at all. I think they've kind of just had a rough last week or two, but they still have some of the best players in Call of Duty. So definitely not worried about them at all.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-0 Atlanta here. As much as I want to be rattled about FaZe after their loss yesterday, I just don't see it happening again. And I only have so many more of those that I could throw out there for Atlanta, where it's like, I don't think it's going to happen again. There's only so many more of those free pass tokens that I've got for FaZe. But this series should be a cleanup, easy one for them. The only thing that could possibly be a hindrance is if Asim and Hook just come out and have, stage 2 like performances here in this matchup. And FaZe really is kind of rattled, not able to get themselves going. But that would have to happen from the get-go on map number 1, I think, for that to go, a repeat of what happened at the end of the day yesterday.
Yep, I'm with you. So hopefully LAG can put up a fight and make it a competitive series, but I'm right there with you on everything else. So we will see. Only time will tell. CDL will be underway in about an hour and 15 minutes, and we'll get our pause on the first game. But transition things over to our second match of the day. We got London Royal Ravens going up against the Toronto Ultra. And we haven't seen London play in a little bit, it feels like. I feel like I haven't got to watch these guys kind of battle it out in a while. So Definitely not a tough opponent to go up against today. I feel like Toronto Ultra's kind of been on the up and up, I guess you would say, starting to look a little bit better. They've had some big wins. And then on the side of London, obviously they got 3-0'd by LA Thieves early on in the qualifiers, and they just recently lost to Boston. Their only win coming in against Paris. So I don't know. This is going to be a weird one. I just feel like kind of everyone stopped talking about this London team a little bit with the addition of Harry. I feel like the roles have kind of been off. He's been playing great. It just kind of reminds me similar to what we've talked about a little bit, but Optic with General, like just kind of the roles don't make sense. And it's hard to kind of fill it in. But I guess, are you worried about London in this series, kind of playing the hot Toronto Ultra right now?
I'm a little bit worried because Toronto is playing really good. Obviously, the big win versus New York was kind of the big turning point for, I think, a lot of people. And then the clean 3-0 yesterday is encouraging. However, I still have a lot of faith that this London team can make this work. It's going to have to be scrappy, though. That's the thing. Without the ability to run the ideal composition in your roster, you have to just be mixy, and you have to hope that there's somebody that can just have a day. And that's never what you want to look at for a win condition. The thing about it is, I really feel strongly about Afro and Nasty. I think both of them are lights out players. I think they do have takeover potential. And even with that, even though I think Harry is running a role that doesn't make this team as complete as it was with Gizmo, Harry's still an individually great player. So I think that London could, against the makeup of this Toronto team, still be very competitive because of the maps that we're likely to see. Both teams kind of like similar areas to play. I mean, seeing things like Tuscan and Berlin is definitely on the table. We've seen Toronto also keep Gavudu in the mix. I don't think they would versus this London team today, but I don't think we'll see a Bacage hardpoint, which is good news, I think, for both teams. And then search and destroy wise, both teams are pretty big on playing maps like Tuscan and Desert. So I think that the more open the series gets when it comes to the map layouts, the more chances there are for teams like London. And since you're dealing with a Toronto team that doesn't necessarily prefer to get up close and mixy, like an LAG, for instance, or Minnesota now, I think that this is a series that London could win just because of the map set and how it would work out versus this Toronto team.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The only thing I still just don't like is this late into the year, I'm just still not a fan of like the auto veto thing, and London's like one of the only teams that you see with them kind of just always getting rid of a Bocage hardpoint. They really don't play it too often. So I don't know, and I definitely don't think they'll be playing it with Harry, just because the roster lineup now is, it would make Zero basically be probably running a full-time sub or playing a really, really aggressive flex role. But I agree with you. I think for the hard points, we'll see something similar to what you said. I think you see maybe Toronto get rid of a Gav, and you probably see a Berlin and a Tuscan in this series. But I don't know. I think it will be a very competitive one. I think, like you said, that London needs to kind of get scrappy, just get loose, and start having just some fun and going with it. Because Harry is a good player, like you said. He's been playing well, statistically for this team. Maybe the mock draft of kind of the roles and everything doesn't lie out perfectly, but they definitely can still make noise and make things happen for the time being. I don't even know. Have you heard an update with Gizmo or anything that's going on? I have no
Haven't heard
idea
anything about him. No.
'Cause I went to his Twitter the other day and I saw he was like playing in challengers or something, like EU, like he'd been playing, he won a cup or something like that. So I just didn't know what his situation's like, or if he plans on coming back or not, or I guess I don't know. I guess the London guys would have more information on that than we do.
I don't know. Yeah, it's yeah, because he played played with Ultra Academy EU. So I don't know.
Maybe he's done for the year. I have no idea.
Maybe.
I see someone in chat saying he's playing EU challengers, think to be close to family, maybe he'll come back next year. So I don't know. Maybe he is done for the year. I don't know. Well, only I guess time will tell. Really, for I'm gonna have to ask the players. Super curious to see what is going on in the backside of things, but. Regardless, I think this should be a pretty back and forth battle. I feel like it's two kind of just middle of the pack teams going at it here. This reminds me yesterday, kind of the Florida-Seattle matchup. It's just like two solid teams playing against each other. One's probably a little bit better than the other. But I don't know. Do you know where you're going with it? I think I know where I'm going. You do? Let's hear it.
I do. I'm taking the upset here. I'm taking London in this one. I'm going to take it 3-2. I feel like there's something that's just going to happen with this London team. I mean, you mentioned it. We haven't seen them play since they played Boston first day of week 2. Hopefully they'll be able to get the vibes back together. I just feel an upset in this one. As much as Toronto has been convincing, and that's the easy pick to make. I just feel like something weird's going to happen today, and I think this is the series that something weird could happen, and so that's what I got.
I like it. I like it. I'm still going to go on the Toronto train. I think that they looked really good yesterday. And I feel like playing back-to-back days, kind of just keeping that swagger momentum going as a team plays a big factor. So I'm going Toronto Ultra 3-1. I think they'll probably handle business pretty convincingly here. And I'll give London a map.
Yeah, I think the thing about it is if we do see a Berlin-Tuscan hardpoint setup, which is likely, I wouldn't be surprised if London takes both of those hardpoints. So... I think that's where the series would be won and lost. I think London has to do well in both the hard points and take whatever their search is. I don't feel great about them in the control personally, but we'll see. Anything can happen.
True. It's Call of Duty Vanguard at the end of the day. Literally anything could happen. But yeah, I see someone in the chat too. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but yeah, Cammy's hitting some sort of form too. So I'm hot on the Toronto Ultra side. I think he played great yesterday. Saw a lot of big flashy plays and kind of gave me flashbacks to Cold War. So if he can continue that pace, I definitely have him, and I'm very confident in Ultra. So again, only time will tell until the match starts. But our third match of the day, we got LA Thieves going up against the Boston Breach. And these matches, like matches 2 and 3, both to me are just like they remind me so much of like the Seattle. I feel like you could put all these teams: London, Toronto, LA Thieves, Boston, and Seattle and Florida, and they're all in like a similar spot of the kind of the pack of the league for me. And literally, I think they could play 10 times and they may beat each other 5 each. Like any given day, they're all great teams. Like you said, the league is so tight knit with like competition right now. And you really don't know what team we're kind of going to get. I mean, Boston, on the side of Boston, they've looked good this year. They've had their ups, they've had their downs, but they've really kind of struggled versus those upper echelon teams. And then on the side of LA Thieves, it's like these guys have looked great at point in time, and then they've looked really bad. And it's like all with the roster change, or not roster change, the role swap. Like Pro-Am, they look good. Then they go on to beat London. We talked about London kind of on the downfall. Then they lose to Minnesota and Seattle back-to-back 3-0s. And it's like you're sitting there wondering, okay, what are these guys going to do? Are they going to turn it back around, or is it going to stay kind of down bad?
Yeah, that's actually facts. It's really tough to put a predictive measure on either of these two teams, right? I mean, for Boston, this has been, I think, a tougher schedule for them overall, just and how they've started having to play up against New York first and foremost. The London team that did give them a bit of a workout, and then you have to play Atlanta. So it's like coming off of the Pro-Am, it's kind of hard to read where Boston is because of the caliber of opponents that they've had to play up against. And then you, of course, look back at the Pro-Am. They did lose to this LA Thieves team to get knocked out of the single elimination bracket. So I feel like a missed measure here when it comes to looking at Boston as comparatively to LA Thieves, where it's just hard to predict them because which LA Thieves is going to show up. I feel personally much stronger about this Boston team than I do about this Thieves squad. And a lot of that, I think, is just largely due to the fact that Thieves are going to want to play. This is going to be a Gavudu series for sure. Like you're going to see Gavudu every single step of the way. I imagine we'll see it for both the hard point and the control. So I think it's going to be really a lot of pressure on, the ARs first and foremost, which means pressure on LA Thieves to make sure that this role swap is something that actually is what's going to make them competitive. We're on the other side for Boston. I think most of my spotlight is on Neuro. He's been a little bit all over the place this qualifier stage. I would like to see him kind of iron it up and get back together, because I think this Boston team is got everything figured out except for just that little bit of extra consistency needed up front. So that's where my biggest kind of focus point is for this Boston team in the series.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I feel like too, the vetoes, in my opinion, are going to go for LA Thieves in their favor. I think that they are going to get to play Gavutu, which they know and love. They're going to get rid of a Bocage, which is perfectly fine with them. And then you may even see a Berlin in the mix just because of how good LA Thieves have been on Tuscan hardpoint. So
that's fair, yeah.
You see a Tuscan get out from the side of Boston. If they don't decide to screw up on that, they're going to get a Berlin and a Gavutu. Statistically, that's like their second and third best hardpoint. I mean, the Tuscans, they're 11-5. Gavutu, they're 10-4. So I mean, they're definitely sitting pretty. And that's kind of been their gimmick all year long, is don't chalice on Gavutu. So I think they're sitting pretty. I will say this is a big matchup though. Both these teams are currently sitting 1-2 in the standings. So if whatever team loses, I'm not 100% sure, but I would pretty much guarantee that they would be in losers bracket. So it's a crazy match for the major overall, but I don't know. I think we see a potential LA Thieves bounce back here. I feel like they're confident from the pro-am, just going against this Boston team, and I feel like this is a team that Boston would struggle against like all the time for me. I just feel like they kind of like Octane is like an annoying like. I don't know, just from playing all these guys, like the way Cap and Nero play, like Octane is like the most annoying player for them to play against. Like Sam plays just so like slow and kind of just back in the back line. He just like is a very frustrating AR to play against when you kind of play with those like cracked out submachine guns. So I don't know. I think I'm pretty confident in LA Thieves kind of the bounce back. I haven't been sold on the roster change or not roster. I keep saying that the role swap. I just don't think it's really looked too confident, but maybe the addition of Shane, maybe practice has been going well on the backside of things, and
That's fair.
hopefully it's been going a little bit better for these guys. But I think we're going to be split down the middle today on some of these games, which makes it fun for the predictions.
So. I think so. What you got LA Thieves? What's the map count?
I got LA Thieves doing a repeat of the pro-am. I got them winning this one 3-1. I'll get Boston a map.
Okay.
I feel like over the last just few weeks, I don't know. Boston just hasn't. I've never really been fully sold on Boston Breach this entirety of the year. I feel like they were on the cusp of being a top like echelon team, but they are like, it reminds me of that saying. They're so close, but they're so far away. Like they've beaten the middle of the pack teams that kind of handled business versus them through most of the year, but they've never gotten a big win versus one of the top teams. They can't beat Faze. They haven't beat them all year long, and when they play them, they get body bagged. It doesn't matter if it's online or on LAN. I just don't know what the matchup is. They've played Optic close, but then they've lost to LA Thieves. They've lost to New York, I think 3 or 4 times this year. And they just haven't like sold me. I just feel like the inconsistencies from some of these guys, and then like they'll kind of beat the lower teams, but no one really has takeover series versus the better teams.
So for me in this series, I think the Thieves have to win both hard points if they want to win this series, and I don't think that is a guarantee just because Gavudu can be a handshake 60. And both teams are obviously pretty good at Gavudu. I have a search and destroy favor and bias towards Boston in this series. So I think that if LA Thieves were to win this, it would have to be both hard points and probably the control. I'm not going to give them that, though. I've got this 3-2 to Boston.
Okay, I like it. That's fun. I definitely could see that. I mean, the search and destroy diff I feel like should go in the Boston's favor, but we will see kind of what team we get from them today, if they'll come out and kind of be the Boston we know and love, and if they can kind of get back into that form, or if they'll kind of just, I don't know. This is just, like I said, this is like a middle of the pack matchup. They're both teams are 1 and 2. They haven't really looked too great, and realistically, it wouldn't blow my mind if either team came out and 3-0'd each other, because it just how the game goes sometimes, how the cookie crumbles. But I'm confident in the hard point vetoes for LA Thieves in this series.
That's fair. And to be fair, it does set them up really well on the hard points. I just think that Boston can contest in that Gavudu hard point, and I think that could be the deciding part of this whole series.
Yeah, I agree. It will be fun.
Plus, it's LA Thieves. We might see another full sale and search, so you never know.
You do never know. You never know. We've seen it before. We have seen it before.
Twice before.
Well, let's transition things to the last match of the day. This is the one everyone's all excited about. You get to see the New York Subliners and Crim6 go up against Optic Texas, who have looked so damn good over the last few weeks. With the addition of Proloot, they're currently sitting pretty at 3-0 right now in this group stage, and they've looked literally so dominant. They're currently 9-1 map count through the group stages, only losing a map to Atlanta Faze. But I guess on the side of New York, this is going to be their last series of the qualifying stage, and they could potentially end 3-2 if they were to take down Optic here. What have you kind of?
First time these guys have played.
Yeah, I don't think they've. I was just looking at that while I'm sitting here talking. I don't think they've played. Well, they definitely haven't played with their. Have they played all year, or they haven't played?
I don't think they've played all year. No, I don't. My sheet doesn't have. My stat sheet has them not playing once yet, and I had to double check to make sure that wasn't a fluke.
I don't think they have. I mean, they surely haven't played at all with the New York roster. They haven't played once this year. So. But then obviously with Pro, everyone says they've not played all year. Correct. Yep. Yeah, I was literally sitting here scrolling the matches to see if they've played once, and they haven't. No, no New York roster.
I was like, this is the only matchup that has not happened yet on online or on LAN.
Yeah, that's crazy to sit there and think about. It's nuts. But wow. I guess I don't know. We spoke a lot about New York. We obviously had Kismet on the show. He was very confident after the Pro-Am Classic, as he should be. They go out. We kind of called it. They were going to fall short to Atlanta to start kind of the stages. And then they handle business versus Boston and Paris, two teams I think that they should handle business versus. And then they lose to that 2-3 to Toronto with the addition of Scrappy. And I mean, like you said, you could potentially argue that Toronto doesn't win that series if they don't have Scrappy, because that guy took over games 4 and 5 to win the series. So who knows what would have happened if they played Toronto's actual roster. But I mean, they've kind of been up and down, I guess you would say, just because they are sitting at 2-2 and they do lose that series to Toronto. But are you confident in them going up against this hot Optic Texas team?
I am confident that they can put together a solid competitive series. Am I confident in their ability to beat this Optic team? That's a totally different ballpark. The thing about it is, it's just Optic will always have map 3 as one of their biggest favors in any series ever. And for a team like New York that has not really touched Berlin control all that much, it just makes you a little bit too limited. I think this team is still another squad that does kind of live off of a couple of hard vetoes, and that's just not going to get you through this Optic team. I'm really hoping that we see some good battles here between the front lines. I want to see this be an SMG dominated battle, because I really want to be able to see if this is going to be something that it is just Prolute just filling in the position, or can you start to rely on Shotzzy and Scump being able to get aggressive and take over a series. I feel like the takeover parts of this Optic team have largely been the ARs, with a couple of great moments from Shotzzy, obviously. But I think this Optic team could really use a big SMG battle here and be able to dominate the series from the subs. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, I think, for this series in particular. It just comes down to what we get for map wise, because the onus is on New York to try to finesse this map veto process, because Optic has flexed their pool on every single mode over the last month and a half, 2 months now. So it's going to be very difficult to put them in a bad position.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I feel like that's something too that you see, again, we talk about it a lot, but some of these better teams, when they're kind of in a good spot in the standings, they can kind of start playing around with the map pool. Obviously, they've had Prolute in the addition too, so maybe they have switched up some of their maps that they used to play with Illy. They're getting more comfortable. Prolute plays a little faster role. He's comfortable running a submachine gun, so they can kind of run and gun and play really any map and mode combo. So again, I think it is hard to veto against this team. I feel like this is, in my opinion, is going to be one of those series where you see New York going up against Optic, but I feel like they're going to get outslayed like crazy in this series, in my opinion. I think we could see it go this stretch. I think we will see it go this stretch, but I feel like the maps that Optic are going to win, there's just going to be like, you remember that series Optic played LA Thieves in, and you saw the scoreboard, and like everyone on LA Thieves had like a 0.8. It was red across the board, but it went game 5, round 11. Do you remember that? And that's how I literally think that it could potentially go. Like I think we maybe see it go the stretch to 5, but I feel like the maps that Optic do win, they're just going to absolutely dominate. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, Shotzi's just been so lights out, so good. We're talking about Scump. The guy's 30 years old now, still frying, doing his thing. But I think it will go the stretch. Krim always likes to play them competitively whenever he plays the old Optic brand. But if New York were to go out and win, I think Krim would be hilarious in a post-game interview, and everyone would be looking forward to it.
Absolutely, he would be. That would be the highlight of the whole series, honestly. Now I'm kind of rooting for that. Wait, hold on a second.
That's kind of what I thought. I'm like, bro, if he wins, he would be hilarious.
That's so true. I'll kick off predictions here. I don't think that's going to happen. I feel really good about what this Optic team is doing. I don't think that there isn't even a way to say that they're vulnerable with Prolute in the mix because of how well he's played. I'm going to give this Optic in 4 on this one. I think I would love to see it go 5, but I think Optic is just in too powerful a position right now. I don't see them losing 2 hard points. I don't see them losing a control, and I think the search and destroy that they've really put together solid looks so far. So I'm going Optic in 4. I'll give New York a map. I just don't know where.
I like it. Guys, I was trolling about Scum being 30. I know he's not 30. It was a joke. Everyone's supposed to laugh. But anyways, I got Optic in 5 here. I think it will go the stretch. Like I said, I think it'll be a very competitive series. I would not be surprised if New York were to win this. It really wouldn't blow my mind even a little bit. But just because I've gassed them up, I feel like they have found a good system ever since the addition of Kismet. I feel like they understand the game. And everyone that they have played, even when they played Atlanta, they played them super competitively. And again, outside of the scrappy takeover game 4 and 5, they could potentially be sitting 3-1 right now. So it is what it is. I got to go on 5. I'm going in Optic's favor. I just think that, like you said, they've looked too damn good over the last few weeks, and even with the addition of Perloot, and their map pool is just sitting so pretty. So I got them win it in 5, and yeah, very confident in them doing that.
I like the call. It's gonna be a good day, man. It better be a good day, bro. Sick of seeing 3-0s.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Yesterday was just kind of like I don't know. Some of these matches get hard to watch this point in the year because it's just like you either know what's gonna happen. Like before, like yesterday, like you said, we were spot on. Like I could have went to bed, came back, and be like, oh, Toronto won 3-0 or 3-1. Okay, that's what I thought was gonna happen or whatever. It's just like whatever. Same thing with like the Surge game, but I think other than the Minnesota one, we were spot on. But today, hopefully, we'll have some good Call of Duty. We have like the first two, or no, the second 2 matches after the ones are pretty competitive, and it should be pretty wild. So should be a fun day of Call of Duty. But I don't know if you got anything else specifically you want to touch on. I don't know if you want to take some questions or if you want to save it for Sunday, but whatever you want to do.
Some questions.
All right, chat. If you guys have any questions, if you guys are watching with us live on Twitch right now, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll try and answer them to the best of our abilities. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Outside of anyone asking anything about Paris Legion, there's just no point to ask. I don't think that the organization, I've seen so many Paris Legion questions in my chat and on YouTube and everything. It's just like, I feel like they're not going to do anything, and no players are going to join an organization like that right now. And I heard Pat or someone said that basically Paris is like the career torture, and I am at the point where I completely agree with it. Yeah, unfortunately, dude. It just sucks to see. If you are an amateur watching this or anyone coming up from the scene, please do not join them. And yeah, it feels like you're set up for failure right now at the moment on that organization. It's just like, it doesn't make sense. So hopefully they will be able to kind of get better people under control there, and people that can actually care about the team and players and help them improve. So we will see.
It's bad news, bud. It just is. It's just, they're putting together scraps. I mean, the only bit of good news coming out of Paris is like Donnie's really established his ability to be picked up as a main star somewhere next year.
Yeah, if he's not contracted forever. He's been on the organization for 2 years now, so I don't know what is.
That's true.
I don't know if the 1+1 was a re-sign of another one, but it just, I don't know. Who knows? I guess what will happen with them, but they need to do something, because it's bad. It is really, really bad. From the outside looking in now, kind of not being a player this year, it's just like, sucks to see, man. I'm friends with everyone in the scene, and to see those guys be put in a situation like that and directly affect their stock, livelihood, and life, it's not fun. Definitely not fun. And I see a lot of people saying, well, they let Donnie go. I just don't think they care about money or any of that matter, and I don't think that they would let their best player go right now. If they care anything about the business side of things.
Facts.
All right, I see quite a few questions coming in. How long will this Faze team last, and who will be the first to leave? I think the Faze team's going to last for quite some time. It would take them losing for a long, long period of time, but I think everyone kind of knows the easy answer there. If who the first person to go would be, I think it would honestly, I don't know exactly. I think that RCDs probably gets the rough end of the stick if something were to hit the fan. I was
thinking too.
Or on the flip side, if they were to continue losing and contracts were getting up, you could potentially, I mean, this may be a year or two from down the road, but when Seth decides to step down one day, I think Optic will gladly throw a bag at Simp. So probably. I would be curious I could see that side of things too, because I don't think it's going to take a lot for this Faze team to just break up. But if contracts ran out, Scump step down, I could see a Simp Shotsy takeover for Call of Duty, and I don't know if anyone would ever want to play them.
No, no, never. Oh my God, that's terrifying. Yeah, I think that's probably a good call. It's just tough. Like it's not going to happen in this game. It's not going to happen after this game. It would have to be like next year's title just does not fit that group of 4, and they would have to kind of make a swap up again.
The thing is, like we talk bad about them, like they're getting like some sort of hate probably right now, and they're still sitting first in the CDL standings. They've still gotten back-to-back grand finals appearances. It's just like, I don't know. Even when Atlanta Faze isn't performing and doing their thing, they're still the most competitive team outside of every team. Like. I mean, you can say our Optic's the best right now. Okay, cool. They're still top 2. Who cares? Like, that's still amazing. Like, I don't know. The league is so competitive right now.
Like, what happens if Atlanta doesn't win a major this year?
I still don't think it matters, realistically. What if they're in 2 more or another grand final? They're in 3 out of 5 grand finals throughout the entirety of the year. They just fell short, couldn't close. Like, So what? We still got the best average placing out of every other organization and team here in the league.
That's
We
fair.
just couldn't close. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's too much to worry about, in my opinion. But I see a lot of Minnesota questions asking if Havoc made the right move, how long the honeymoon period will last. Honestly, I thought the honeymoon would be done yesterday, but they've continued
Same.
to impress. So I mean, I'm gonna just keep it 100 with you guys. I genuinely don't know. Well, only time will tell. At the Pro-Am, they didn't look good. Through the online qualifying stages, they've looked amazing. I am very curious to see if they'll be able to keep it up at the major and kind of on land, but they've proven to everyone that they're very competitive. And again, only time will tell realistically for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm high on them right now, obviously, and I think the thing about it is kind of like we saw from New York. It's not just the fact that there's like things are just clicking. It's everybody is starting to play at the pace that you would normally assume that, or that rather you see from like teams like Texas and stuff like that. Like the whole team has gotten better because of it, and it's not just something that's just like LAG's symptom where it's just like how do we prep for them. People have been able to prep for this Minnesota team over the course of the last couple of weeks now, and still they can't find ways to beat maps, take maps against them. So I think that's great news for Minnesota going into the major to be not just on a honeymoon, quote unquote, but to also be in a position to just have good tempo, good pacing, and good confidence. I definitely see them getting top 3. I think just based on how they're playing right now.
So are they your dark horse going into the event, basically?
No, they're not my dark horse.
Oh, okay. I like it. That's a bold take. I like it. Definitely would be interesting to see if they will continue to perform. But I will say too, just that we talk about coaching staff sometimes. Looney is a smart, very, very smart Call of Duty player, and I think he has a great system and for this team, and I think that's kind of shown and been proven over the last few weeks. Even just talking about what you were saying about the whole team just always taking the long route, being the kind of making the heads up play for the next rotation, just being super annoying. And I will tell you, as a competitor, there's like meta change over COD. Like when it first starts out, there's a team that understands how to play and figure out things. And then as the year goes on and kind of keeps progressing, the teams that make the more consistent plays 10 out of 10 times and kind of have a consistent system always seem to be the ones who kind of perform. And that's kind of been Looney's gimmick for his whole career. So I can only imagine that he has that team on something similar to that. Him and Brian Saint are probably doing a good job. So definitely proven to be working with attached switching to an AR and doing that well too.
For Alex in the chat, Seattle is my dark horse going into this tournament.
Okay, I like that. I feel like that's a good one, to be honest, because just the way that they've kind of looked at times at the majors, but they've had a rocky ride through the last few months, I guess I would say, of this game. They've kind of been a lot of ups and downs. It's kind of like a roller coaster, but they're definitely a good dark horse. I would say mine is probably honestly, I don't know. Mine would probably be. I think I may go with you on the Seattle take. I feel like that's a really good dark horse, just because they have performed like I said it earlier. Who knows what happens at Major 2 if Max not yak melts throwing up everywhere? Like these guys could potentially make a crazy run. He was playing out of his mind, and I feel like on land he's been one of their best players. So I don't know. It'll be crazy to see how they'll perform with their whole team being at 100% and most likely starting in a winner's bracket.
It's also tough to pick like a dark horse because out of Minnesota and Seattle, like they're both probably going to be in a top 3 seed position because of what they did in the qualifier. Like outside of Optic, who's going to be the favorite to win, everybody is kind of in that ballpark of like dark horse. Like, is that even a true dark horse pick? Like, it's hard to say just due to the fact that they're going to probably be 4-1 after they beat London on Sunday. So.
Yeah, I've seen this a few times in the question too. Whoa asked in the chat, do you agree with Enable's take when he said that Envoy's playstyle could be the reason why Thieves aren't consistent? And I've seen this a lot, and this has been a conversation in COD for a long time. There's players out there who kind of play like I guess you would classify Envoy as more of like a flanky playstyle. They kind of play behind the play is what a lot of pro players like to call it, and like they'll take the long route to set themselves up for kills, but maybe instead of hitting out like a 3v2 head on and just playing trades, you take that route.
Win the war on 2 fronts.
Yeah, and it's just like I've seen that argument, I've seen that conversation, I've seen a lot of players who kind of play with it. Obviously, Octane disagree with it. That's his teammate. But I just think that I don't know. That's just an outside looking in perspective. Again, we don't watch scrims all day. Enable, yeah, he's on 100 Thieves, but he's not sitting behind the team coaching them all day, figuring out what the problems are. But I mean, it definitely can not benefit you in certain situations, I will say, but I don't think he is the reason why 100 Thieves are finding inconsistencies.
No, I think in moments like that too, where it's like you've got a 3v2 situation, Envoy's hitting a route, you have to trust that your teammates are going to out trade or evenly trade that 2v2 situation, right? Like you have to be playing two things at once in this game, especially in hardpoint, that's what we're talking about here. Just due to the fact that the game is fast. Like you cannot afford just to play a one-dimensional style hardpoint. Otherwise you just get put into a blender. So I don't know.
I don't know. I think a lot lies under this team. There's been a lot of I see a lot of people saying Kenny. It's just I think there's been a lot of inconsistencies from a majority of the team throughout the course of the year. We talked about Draza. He was having a lot of really bad performances. Octane wasn't playing up to the hype. Kenny wasn't doing the best in the flex role, so they switched him to a sub role, and he's had inconsistencies. So it's hard to just kind of pinpoint one specific player, in my opinion. And Envoy's probably statistically been the best for this team, but I don't think that his play style is the reason that they're not finding success, in my opinion. But
yeah,
that's kind of my take on it. I don't know if you saw anything else specifically. Paris don't loan Don to LAG or LA Thieves. That's just not going to happen. I'm telling you,
it's not gonna happen.
The Paris Legion, that's why I said at the start before we took questions, that the Paris Legion aren't making changes at all, I don't think, this entirety of the year. We've seen this every single year since they've started becoming a thing. The only time we saw is MW, they had multiple different substitutes, but even then they kept their roster pretty much core and tight for the entire time. So we saw it in Cold War. They really only made like 1 or 2 changes. These guys made 2 changes this year already. I don't see them changing again for the remainder of the year. I just don't see why any player would join their roster right now. You're basically guaranteed to not play at champs, so you're playing your third to last event this major 3. So you basically have 1 more week or the 2 more days of this online qualifier stages. You go to Toronto and you're guaranteed 1 more event, and then your season's over. So why would anyone join? Why would they make any more moves or even benefit other organizations?
Yeah, they're pretty much like out of the running for playoffs completely. Like they would have to do well this major, and then they would have to like win the next one.
Oh, they have to get like top 4 this major. They're down 40 or 50 CDL points from top 8 right now. And then all the top 8 teams are doing well right now, so they're going to perform and get more points.
70 right now.
Are they down 70?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
they would have to finish top 2 this major, and probably win all of their major qualifiers in 4 and still do well. And yeah, it's just not happening.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to do unreal things. It's just such a hard spot, and they're going to be starting in losers bracket of the tournament. They're playing one and done series, basically. Their life's on the line, so it's just very, very hard to kind of turn it around and make things work this late into the year.
2-16 in the season, bro.
Definitely not ideal.
I can think of better situations than that.
I see someone. I see this too. People have been talking about this a lot. Bro, Dave Petty has 9 more kills than Skies, and Skies still has 1K more damage. How does that make sense? So Dave Petty plays. I mean, a lot of people have talked about it. That's why Alan and I have kind of agreed that we feel like Florida needs to kind of make a change. But Dave plays a more like main. He just plays a super main AR playstyle. He kind of plays similar to like Insight, just a slower, more methodical game, which is fine. But we feel like Florida doesn't have really like another submachine gun play. Like they do. Don't get me wrong. Awakening and Skies can play a flex or a sub, but we just feel like that they would be better, kind of running the roles that they've ran over the past few years. In my personal opinion, I think that Dave is a great player. He's played very well. I just don't think it's similar to kind of like the London team right now. They have like 2 main. They have Harry and Trey Zero now, where in the mock kind of hasn't been really working that well. So I think if you saw Florida do something, it would potentially be like, I would love to see if I was GM and making role swaps or doing something. I would. Unfortunately, I don't think Dave has been underperforming, but I'd move him to the bench. I'd put Skies at main AR, Awakening flex, and then either you bring in Yeez or you bring in a sub from challengers that you're confident in, and just see what could happen, see what they can do. Yep. I think it would improve them tenfold, in my opinion.
I agree. That's the good call. That's the good stuff right there.
But Dave would succeed with a fast team, is what Stanley said during the flight. Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, he's a great player. That's why it's just a hard situation.
Great player.
It's kind of like similar to like Major Maniac with Minnesota. Like they're finding success with Havoc.
Absolutely.
They just moved out. Like Major wasn't performing terribly or doing anything wrong or anything, but like now the system, it was what I said a long time ago on this show. I said they needed to find their roles and figure out what Attach wants to run. Attach have been their best player. If he wants to run an AR, well, Major just can't be on the team because the way Vanguard is right now, it's so fast. And really, the teams that are finding success have a statue AR and 3 fast players, whether that Flex is, he's just comfortable getting in and out of quick gunfights and engagements.
Yeah, it's just the same thing that we were talking about with Florida, where it's just like the makeup of that team is not ideal. It's a solid team. All 4 players are great. It's just not the ideal composition that you're seeing from teams that are at the top 3 of the league right now.
Yep.
You're gonna have great days from them. There's gonna be moments where like that setup just works. They're gonna get the right maps. They're gonna get the right participation from Vivid, and it's gonna be, a Florida team that's gonna be top 4. And then there's gonna be days where they just cannot get anything going on the map, and they're gonna get smoked. It's just tough because that consistency. There's really no glue between the composition and what the style of game is that we have right now.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I think that's perfectly said. Some of these teams say that they have a system, but they don't. They just play. How do you have 3 mains on a team? I mean, I don't know. This conversation I could sit here and talk about to you guys for literally hours upon hours, because this goes all the way back to players. These organizations make teams before the games even come out. You don't know how the game's going to be played. Players don't get a good on-hands test of the game, whether they go try it for a day or 24 hours, 48 hours. You can't tell what the game's going to be played like, what the speed of the game's going to be played like, nothing like that until we actually get the real game. So it's a never ongoing thing that, say the game was slower. Now Florida's mock probably works in a system or whatever, but it's just like now that it's a really fast-paced game and it's tack spreading and it's very quick, it's harder to make it work. So it's a hard situation to be put in my opinion. So you should just build your team with faster players that can learn to play slow than slow trying to play fast, because it's a lot easier the other way around. I don't know if you saw anything else specifically. If you want to wrap it up, it don't matter to me. Whatever works.
Look at the subliner's most recent tweet, bro. How do they come up with this stuff?
Let me see.
Oh my.
Hirsch is hilarious. Let's see it. A clash of. Oh my god. Let me pull this bad boy up on stream. Look at this, chat. A clash of the Titans. Crim6 and Scump going at it. Age 26, age 28, 5'6". Height simp times 2. Weight less than Crim for sure. Weight, yes. Reach. This is some of the most disrespectful shit I've seen. We are literally heartbroken and use it for impressions. Post the clutch. Post your celebration. By kicking us like this, your team was literally banned. Unbelievably classless. Reach into the McDonald's bag. Oh my god, that is a worst right there. That is really funny. This is a good photo of both of these fine young gentlemen. Oh man, that is good. That is good.
Just the best to do it, honestly.
No, definitely.
That's all you could say.
I am down to wrap her up, though. I'm excited for the games. I appreciate you coming on. Chat, if you guys are watching with us live, make sure to please drop a follow on the stream. Go show Alan some love. Mods, if you guys could throw his socials, it's right under his webcam box. Go type it on Twitter. Go drop a follow. Turn on his notifications. Do the whole ordeal. We appreciate you guys. If you guys are over on YouTube, make sure to please subscribe to the channel and tell your friend about it. Tell some more people about it. Get the name out there. We do a little CDL pre-show before the game, so we appreciate you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the insight and kind of the recap from yesterday, just slightly kind of watching the game so you guys can follow along with us. Appreciate all of you guys, and I hope you guys have a fantastic Saturday and enjoy the games. I'm going to stay streaming for a while. Yeah. Got anything on? Anything crazy? Anything coming up? No challenger stuff? Anything? No?
Nope. I'm going to go take a nap.
Yeah, okay. Guys, tweet Alan and tell him to get well. This guy's dealing with the sickness, the vid. He's not feeling well, so he's still coming on. Go show him some love for real, because he's being a trooper coming on here and talking to you guys for a good hour plus. So we appreciate Alan. It's a wowing in the chat.
Love you guys. It's easy decisions.
We'll catch you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Again, I'll be streaming for a little bit, so we will catch you guys in tomorrow's episode of First Blood. Have a fantastic day, guys. Peace.